All right, what is going on, guys? And welcome back to iCoach Nutrition Radio. As I was just talking to David right before this, it has been a while since I've recorded a podcast. But I always love to do these with clients. David's somebody that I have had the pleasure of working with for almost 3 years, coming up on that, right? And so essentially, anytime that a client graduates the coaching program or iCoach University, as we like to reference it as, I like to bring them on to the podcast and just have them share their journey and their experience of working together. I always get a lot of great feedback on that just from others that are listening and watching the podcast, and they're able to see themselves in these stories of others that have kind of gone before them. And so, really just an opportunity to be able to pay it forward and kind of share your wins and share your takeaways of your journey of working together. So, without further ado, David, welcome to the podcast. What's up, brother?
So good to be here.
He's
I've been
my
working.
David's my music producer. He's got the studio in the background here that he has been working so hard on, and yeah, he's out there in Anna, Texas, and doing. I guess people are coming and renting out space and doing the whole studio thing there, huh?
Yeah,
Nice. That's
yeah,
awesome,
been putting
man.
this together. Thanks for having me, man. This has been my lifelong dream.
Yeah,
Yes.
David and I were just talking about how, right before the podcast, that this is going to be the episode that goes viral, that we're going to become a number one podcast after this, and we'll share our earnings when somebody comes to buy it for $1 billion. So,
I mean, I will say, if any guest were to go viral, it would be the guy who can't fully talk, who whispers when he talks, right?
oh man, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little worried there when we first started the podcast because I'm like, what the heck? What's going on? I was like, we do these, I guess it's through the phone though with FaceTime, which is not Zoom. So, anyways, we got it all figured out and we should be good to go. All right, David. So what I want to do is, I guess, real quick, just give people, a little bit of background on, you and what you do. We alluded to it earlier just a bit there, but then also, kind of just give us a little background of like your journey up until 33 years of your life when we first started working together, and kind of what like knowing what you know now, what did that lifestyle kind of look like for you in comparison?
Yeah. So, I'm 35 now. I think I started working with you when I was 33.
Yeah.
But I've worked like basically kind of in the same. I've been in ministry and like music since, man, for like 2 decades now. Maybe probably a little less than 2 decades. So I'm on staff at my church where I do like a lot of production, directing our bands and musicians, and like taking care of all our guys. I've been there for a long time. But then I also get to travel quite a bit with a few artists. So there's a lot of traveling involved. And then I have a home recording set up here at the house. So I'll bring in clients and artists, some local, some from like out of state, out of country. So yeah, it's a lot of ministry and music for a long time. Which um, I knew this going into working with you before, but I have a very inconsistent schedule, busy, busy work schedule, which I've kind of seen play out as we've worked uh, together. But yeah, so I think before I'd reached out to you, I want to say I think I was the heaviest I've ever been in my life. The previous year, my dad had just passed away from COVID, and that was February of 21. And I want to say February of 22 was probably, I think, the first time you and I had talked. And I literally just Googled like nutritionist or dietitian, like DFW or no DFW, and you like popped up with like all these rave reviews, and I'm like, I don't know, I feel like all these reviews are fake, but like let me just reach out to this guy and like just like see what he's about. But I remember just being like super ready to like to get my health under control because I was like out of control, like spinning. That year my dad passed away, and I think I was just ready to make a change. And I think from day one, talking to you, I was like, I think I like this guy. I think I want to work with him. So that's the short version of getting up to us working together at the beginning.
Yeah, and I want to, we could honestly probably record a whole entire podcast on it, but I really want to touch on, what you just said there at the end was being ready to change. Right? Because I mean, I've literally worked with thousands of clients over the last 15 years, and I always say, like, it doesn't matter how much money you spend on it. It doesn't matter, if you work with the world's leading expert, like, you have to be ready to change because that individual can't do the work for you. And I also always say that, when you have a really strong why behind the goal that it is that you want to accomplish, like it will help you to have the motivation and the discipline and the willpower, make the sacrifices to overcome all of those, roadblocks along the way because it's not going to be easy. It's not, this is never going to be like the only thing in your life that you get to focus on. You're always going to have a million other things going on. So and maybe for you, this you'll have to kind of reflect back on this a little bit, but just that ready to change piece. I mean, you said that you were maybe the most unhealthy that you had under ever been. I think you were around like 255 pounds at that time, right? And this is at 33 years old, at 5'11". But just speak on that to, whatever comes to mind in terms of just that concept of being ready to change. Because I think that that's something that people really, really struggle with. They either are like never ready to change, like they're always making excuses, right? Or they sign up for something, they sign up for coaching for whatever, and they think they're ready to change, and then they don't like actually take action, right? Or maybe it takes like a long time for them to finally take action.
Yeah, I mean, I even remember, let's see, I remember my dad's funeral. It's like the slideshows that people do at funerals all the time. It just kind of shows like the beginning to end of somebody's life. And of course, like all these beautiful moments of my dad's life. He passed away on his birthday, his 63rd birthday in February. And he honestly did have an incredible life. He was an amazing dad to me and my brothers, amazing husband to my mom. But I do remember just like his entire life, him being super overweight, super healthy, super overweight, super healthy. And I remember seeing that, and I was like, dang, dude, that's me. And I think even out of all my brothers, I look the most like him as well. So I was like, I could even like see myself like in the pictures of being super healthy and super overweight at the same time. But that year, that that year in that space leading up to working with you, I just remember just using food as like just a numbing out process, and I just felt awful. So I think the week we had talked, I was like, I'm ready to stop feeling like this. I'm ready to stop looking like this. I think there's a confidence aspect that even comes into to being your most healthy self. And I remember just like, I think I was putting together my goals for 2022, the year that we started working together. And I was like, if I could only change one thing about like my goals for the year, I was like, I put down like spiritual things, money, career things, and I put health things, relationship things. And to me, health was the one thing that I felt like if I could get this one thing, I feel like the rest of these other categories would be so much easier for me.
Mhm.
And yeah, no, I think for that reason, I was like, I'm past ready because I felt like that was like the one domino that I think I was ready to tip over. I
Mhm.
think a lot of times we think we need to do a lot of things at one time to get our life in order, and but I think sometimes it's more sequential than we think. It starts here, and then the rest of the other dominoes and areas in our lives start to fall.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I mean you're absolutely right. I mean there's a there's a compounding effect. We read in Atomic Habits, as you know, my favorite book that I read about all the time, habit stacking, right? And so it's this idea of being able to, have this compounding effect with your habits, right? And I know it to be true because I've seen it in my own life and you've now seen it in yours and everyone listening that has realized this, like they understand, but for those that haven't, they don't understand. And most people don't know how good they can feel until they actually start feeling that way. And so it truly is, a lifestyle change, and it's a transformation that happens there. But again, you gotta be ready to change. And sometimes it's just about, being sick and tired of being sick and tired, like sick and tired of feeling like crap. But having the self-awareness, right, to understand, because I always say all the time that it translates over in every other aspect of your life, right? When you transform your body, right, it builds confidence in every other aspect of your life. But to have the self-awareness around that before it actually happening, like I can tell people that all day long, but like they don't actually like really believe it until it actually happens, right? So, I mean, had you been like at a, I mean, I guess you were, I mean, 3 years before that, I think you were about 25 pounds ish lower, right? So at that time, you were healthier, fitter, working out more of that, and then it just kind of fell off there with your dad, or was it not happening before either?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of things going on in the last 4 to 5 years. So COVID was a big one,
COVID, yeah,
and so I was top of 2020 before COVID hit. I was in pretty good shape, hitting the gym. And you would think the more time we were all spending in our homes, we'd be healthier. For some reason, we have like more free time. But I don't think that was the case for most people. It was more free time. And it's more just like, it was just such a weird time to be alive. It seems like forever ago, but it's really not that long ago. So
yeah,
I think I started by like, all right, we're going to keep these habits going. And I just hit
got it.
quickly. So,
Yeah, man. I mean, you're not alone. I mean, COVID, it's really interesting actually. If you look at the space that I'm in, sales, online nutrition coaching, online, fitness coaching, like those sales went up dramatically during COVID because, yeah, I mean, people are at home, right? And when you're at home, you tend to eat more because it's literally just, a walk away, a few steps away, whatever, right? So yeah, you're not alone in that, but yeah, a part of that's like, hey, knowing that you can get back to where you once were, right? It's like the muscle memory thing, right? Like, but it's also about like you knew how good you could feel, right? And you knew that looking better brought more confidence, right? You knew that, performing better with your career and things like that were goals of yours that you wanted to accomplish. So all of those things were in line, and you had been there before. So it was a lot of it was like getting back to that. And then since then it's been navigating through different seasons of life, right? And I'll let you, I'm sure we'll kind of expand on some of that here as we move forward. But I want to get to the goals. So the goals ultimately were you wanted to go from 255 to 210. So essentially you wanted to drop about 40 pounds. You had said, I want to feel great, I want to sleep better, I want to learn how to live a healthy, sustainable lifestyle. Right. And as I was looking back on this journey, so you just graduated the program here recently. I mean, honestly, you probably could have graduated the program earlier if you wanted to, right? But we just went through like, many seasons of life
it's
there.
because I like hanging out with you.
I was gonna say you just
Start to get like,
yeah, at a certain point, just hanging out on Thursdays there. So but no, if we look at it, and again, there was like seasons through all of this, but like if we really look at the goal that was accomplished, initially there that you came to us with, we did. You dropped 40 pounds and you dropped about 10% body fat. So I think for you, if you think about kind of that goal process of setting those goals and accomplishing those goals, like were these like realistic goals that you had set for yourself, like looking back on it now? Because that's something that I think a lot of people struggle with is having like unrealistic expectations for their goals. And when they don't get results yesterday, right, then they self-sabotage, they, whatever. So, knowing for you kind of like what just getting, kind of the from the initial assessment to, starting to roll into that game plan strategy and just going through, the phases of getting more consistent with just the basic healthy lifestyle habits to then, fueling your body properly, eating at maintenance calories, eating in a calorie deficit, kind of going through nutritional periodization. I guess what advice maybe or takeaways, would you share just in relation to kind of the actual journey through coaching from, the time that you set those goals to, accomplishing them?
yeah. Well, to answer your first question, I do feel like it was pretty realistic. will say I feel like I may have like made it just a tad unrealistic outside of it's just like there was a goal I wanted to hit. I'm like, and then maybe a little more. So I think we kind of like tagged because I mean like 55 to 210. That's like 45 pounds. Like that's not a small amount of weight. And
Yeah.
I'm actually not sure we ever got all the way down to 210, but I was like freaking close. So
Yeah, you were just shy. I was looking back on it. I want to say it was like 218 or so is where you got to. So
I think
and that was right at the end of the dieting phase. Yeah, 218.8. And that was when you had body fat percentage testing at 21.4%. So you'd gone down from 255 from a weight standpoint, you'd gone down from 32% body fat. So really, really good improvements there, obviously. And then now the name of the game ever since has just been, trying to maintain the results that you work so hard to get, right? Consistency through different seasons of life. That's the challenge for us all, right? Is actually being consistent. So yeah, I guess, talk maybe if you want to break it up and you could talk maybe like dieting phase and kind of what that looked like for you just in terms of like your overall mindset and what the consistency looked like, kind of the discipline, the sacrifices in comparison to, consistency at maintenance calories, sustainability for the rest of your life. Like, 'cause I don't think a lot of people really understand nutritional periodization. I think a lot of people they're either like, on a diet or off a diet, right? And so really starting to kind of understand the differences of what it takes to transform your overall body composition from like losing body fat and building muscle to, just simply maintaining all these basic healthy lifestyle habits and truly living a sustainable healthy lifestyle.
yeah. And I'm just kind of breaking down in the most like basic form and terminology as like how I felt and how I understood like going through the process. So I will say the if I break into two halves of doing a dieting phase with Justin Murphy with iCoach Nutrition, the first half of the dieting phase was not at all what I expected. And when I say that, I mean it was like it was so much simpler than I was anticipating in my head before working with you. Like, I was like, man, this is gonna be so hard. There's gonna be a billion things I gotta keep track of. I mean, this is literally gonna kill my soul to meet a dieting phase. And I remember like the first 2 weeks, you're like, yeah, no, don't change anything. Just take pictures of what you're eating and send me the pictures. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I thought I was supposed to be dieting. You're like, oh no, we'll get there. Trust me, we'll get there. But just show me what you're doing. And I think that was like one of the coolest parts about working with you is you were like you're working with everybody from where they are, not where you are. So some people have already very healthy lifestyles. Some people who were eating lots of pizza every other day, not so much. But it was such a slow burn. That first half, I remember, I was like, wow, this is like so much easier than I thought it was going to be. So we'd start by just kind of doing what I was already doing, but just catching you up on that. And then it was like, okay, let's try incorporating these foods. And then a few weeks later, okay, let's try tracking your calories. And after that, let's try tracking your proteins. I was like, wow, this is like super doable. It probably wasn't until probably halfway through the phase you start bringing the amount of calories down, getting your steps up, checking. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is work. But I think it comes back to what we were talking about a little bit before. When you're ready, you're ready. So I remember that first dieting phase for me was like, I was like, all right, we're doing this thing. We're getting the workouts in. We're tracking our calories. And honestly, I loved it. It's funny, most people don't, everybody paints accountability in this like negative light, which is not always fun. Let's be honest. It sucks when you don't hit the mark and you have to talk to your coach. You're like, okay, well, you missed here and here. That's okay. Let's try this. That's not fun, especially when you're missing the mark like 4 weeks in a row. But what nobody else talks about is like how good it feels when you are hitting the marks every week. It's like, yeah, dang, I crushed this week. Dang, I'm killing it. Like that's like honest for me, something that like setting goals. I think one of the side of that periodization has not been as easy for me. But but yeah, I think the whole process of working with you was like a lot more enjoyable than I anticipated. So
Nice. Yeah, man. I think, kind of, I mean, there's so many things I could talk about now, but bringing it back to like the beginning, it's so much about, this is why I think one-on-one coaching, individualized coaching for most people really is, you know, successful, because it's a journey that you're on, and I've got to meet you as your coach. I got to meet you where you are on your journey. Right? And you got to take a holistic approach with it because it's not just nutrition. It's not just exercise. It's sleep and hydration and stress management and personal development and also just realizing, the career and the lifestyle and the family and all like there's so many working parts to this. It's never just one thing. So we got to meet you where you are. And going back to what I was talking about with habit stacking, that was a perfect example of that. We started with one thing, we identified the low-hanging fruit, if you will, right? We knew that there was going to be something that was going to really impact the other things, right? And then from there, we started improving things based off that data that we assessed. And then from there, we started, on to the next focus item, on the next one, and the next one. And there's a compounding effect with that over time. But to your point, yeah, I mean, most people try to overhaul it and do a million different things to start. And there are some personality types that can excel with that, and great. I love it. You're going to get faster results. You're the sustainability of that later on. There has to be an exit strategy. You have to make a good transition there back to sustainability. Because again, another point of yours there, dieting sucks, right? And it's not sustainable, right? And so, yes, like there are going to be, it is hard, and there are going to be sacrifices that have to be made because, again, you're trying to transform your body composition. You're literally eating in a calorie deficit, restricting your body from how many calories it needs, right? So that's a stress on the body, and it's needed to lose body fat and to transform your overall body composition there. But yeah, it's hard. Let's be real, most people won't even track their food. So, I mean, talking about a dieting phase and all of this other stuff, like, of course, it makes it super complicated. This is why most people just go to, I'm just going to cut out carbs. And they create a calorie deficit and they lose weight, and it's awesome until they start eating carbs again and then they gain all the weight back. you know so understanding the number side of this and tracking and being open to accountability and wanting to be coachable, there's a lot of value that goes into it. But yeah, you have to put the effort in. The more effort you put forth, the better results you get. Right. And to be honest, like going back to your whole mindset, you being ready to change, like the faster you go all in, the faster you're going to get results. So if you are like most people who want results yesterday, well, then go all in, right? Like if you're not consistent, don't expect to get, fast results, or maybe you're not even any results at all. Um, so again, that's why we track because we don't want to tell ourselves the stories that we want to believe or listen to the stories that we're telling ourselves, right? We want to have black and white data to assess to truly be able to prove whether or not we're doing something as consistently as we say we are. And when we do, going back to another point of yours, right? You start to build up that integrity bank account, right? You're proud of yourself for doing what you said that you're going to do, for following through with what you said that you're going to do. And so when I talk about the confidence that's built along the way, well, yeah, it's because you're doing hard things and you're pursuing hard things and you're overcoming those struggles. And so what is that doing? It's translating into other areas of your life. It's making you better with relationships, it's making you better with your career, parenting, whatever, right? And that's the game. When you prioritize your health, your spiritual health, mental health, emotional health, physical health, that table of health will translate out into every other aspect of your life.
yeah, there were like so many things I found from like our time we worked together that I felt like translated to other areas of my life, which I thought was so cool. And like one of them, which I feel like I've heard you say a billion times by now, which was like you can't control what you don't track. And so, of course, in our dieting phases, we're tracking like certain things, whether that's like fitness, gym things, steps, calories. But it's like there's so many other areas of our life where I'm like, oh yeah, duh. I'm like, I don't think I've heard it said that way, but it's like you can't control your what's going in and out of your bank account if you're not tracking it. Like same thing say if it's a mental health thing, if you're not like writing down like, hey, I felt this way on this day and this is why. It's like you can go back and look at all these things like, wow, I felt really good at this season of my life. Here's why. And you're like tracking things. Wow, I got a lot of money in my bank account back in this month and this month, this month. What was happening? It's like, why? It's like, yeah, you can't control what you don't track. So I'm like, I don't think I'll ever forget that for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many little nuggets that I probably say, on a pretty regular basis there. But I hear clients all the time. They're like, "Yeah, I feel like I was in this situation, and you were just like on my shoulder talking to me, whispering in my ear there, or whatever." Or these sayings, that stick with you. But look, I mean, this happens to all of us, right? Like sometimes, like we could hear something a million times, but you hear it from somebody in a certain way that resonates with you, and all of a sudden you have this realization, and it influences your decision-making process. That's why I always say like awareness precedes change. Again, this is why we track. You can't become aware, right, of things that you're not tracking. So we've got like 10 minutes left on the podcast here. And so I want to dive into, I guess, kind of last question here would be, if anybody that's listening to this that, has maybe never worked with a nutrition coach before, or, maybe they have had a bad experience or whatever, right? Like what would be, because if I'm not mistaken, this was like the first nutritionist, nutrition coach, dietitian, anything you had ever worked with, right?
In this type of capacity, yes, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, maybe just thinking back to like what, even you spoke on it a little bit earlier in terms of like what you thought the process was going to look like versus what it actually was, but maybe just those people that are on the fence, or maybe they're on the fence in terms of like an investment standpoint, like and how much, the cost of it. Um, I always kind of joke, there's a lot of people that, that talk about how important their health is to them, but like they spend more on Starbucks than they're willing to spend on like nutrition coaching, you know? So just some of those things, because those are the things that are most common. It's like it's going to be way too hard. I don't have time for this. Like it'll be another time, or it's too expensive. Like I can't afford that. Or the third maybe would actually be too, just like not actually believing that it's going to work. Like they've like just failed so many times that like they don't even believe that it's possible.
Yeah. What would my advice be to them? Don't do it. No. Honestly, no. Really, don't do it if you don't want your life to change. And that sounds like life change. Sounds like such a drastic, personal development, change your life. It really is like a significant life change to feel the way you feel when you're at like maximum health. And it really does translate to all the other areas of your life. And like trickles in. Um, I will say, I heard somebody say one time, the price is easy. The price is easy if the promise is clear.
Mm.
And I think a lot of that just speaks to belief. It's like if I could trade $50, and I knew for a fact when I gave you this $50, I would feel the best I've ever felt in my life, and I would be like healthy and just confident and just like crushing every area of my life. That's such an easy price to pay. But I think for a lot of people, it's not like a price, like a monetary value. It's like the work they have to do and the belief that they can do it. That's in between. It's like if it's cost $100, I'll pay $100 to feel this way easy. But it's like I don't know if I can actually do the things that I'm gonna have to do to feel this way. But I think we all have it in there to do it.
Yeah, well, and that's a great point. And honestly, it's not, any of our faults, because the reality of it is like if you look at what's been marketed to us our whole lives, like it's things like 75 hard, and it's these things that are like, not that that's bad, right? Like there can be good things that come from that, but what I'm saying is a lot of the things are very extreme, right? They have a timeline. There's an end date, right? And it's very rare that you're starting the process by, having the turtle approach and just like addressing one thing at a time. Because again, people want results yesterday. So it's this very delicate balance, both for clients and for coaches, as to like, just really being able to set realistic expectations and understanding what this journey really entails. You're not going to change your habits in 21 days or 30 days or honestly even 90 days. Like, so I know that's what science tells us or people tell us or whatever, but like that's just not based off thousands of clients over the last 15 years, I would say that is just not true. In fact, I would argue it's closer to maybe like a year, right? And then, after that, we can just keep hanging out for a couple more. I'm just kidding.
That's the way I recommend. Everybody has to do that.
David just wanted to make sure it was submitted, baby. He's like, I'm never coming back. I got this.
Okay, I think I understand this now.
But if you really think, people say like it takes, 10,000 hours or whatever to become an expert, right? And like if you think about the timeline and the journey and all the reps that you have to put forth towards working on these things, like yeah, if you could dedicate 1 year of your life to building the confidence and developing the skill set that is nutrition and sleep and learning how to live a sustainable, healthy lifestyle. Like that's 1 year of your life. Like, and that's going to set you up to feel better, to look better, to perform better for the whole rest of your life. Like, is that worth it? Right. And then of course the answer is yes. But you've got to go all in and have the why behind it to because a lot I mean a year can feel like a really long time, even though it's not a long time in the grand scheme of life. But most people, they get to like 7 days and they feel like it's been a year. So, uh, patience is very important through this process. Trusting the process, being coachable, and just having realistic expectations. I mean, the quicker you can get to a place of falling in love with the process and falling in love with the journey, and realizing that you're going to be doing this stuff for the rest of your life like if you say that your health is important to you, like, well, okay, you're gonna have to prioritize living a healthy lifestyle for the rest of your life. So let's try to have a little bit of fun with it and not feel like it's like the absolute worst thing that's ever happened to you. Look at it as something that's going to improve the quality of your life, not, you know, be this thing that you just have to sacrifice all the things that you love. So. Anyways, I could probably rant all day, but David, appreciate you coming on the podcast, my man, and being able to fire this thing back up after some time off. So hopefully people appreciate that. But appreciate just the journey of us being able to work together, these last 2, 3 years, and just proud of you and all your successes. And I think for you, as I always say, I love seeing clients graduate the coaching program and then checking in a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, whatever, and like they're still doing it. They're still living a sustainable, healthy lifestyle. And as we all know, we're gonna go through different seasons where like sometimes we're fitter or healthier or leaner or whatever than other times. Like it's part of it. You're not always gonna be, like dialed in and top notch in all those areas, but just having the confidence that you can navigate through it, having the awareness that you know how to coach yourself, that's ultimately the name of the game. So with that said, anything else you got, my man? 2 minutes left here. Good to go.
I love you. I love working with you. 10 out of 10.
Love it, bro.
Ah, man,
Appreciate you, man.
thank you
Love you
so much.
too. All right, brother.